All right, Sam Bradshaw is our Rain Man, and he comes up with these numbers. And this is maybe, before you put it up, Garrett, okay, it's up. This may be the best image I've seen. Put it up now, Garrett. This is what he is saying. Colorado, since they left the Big 12 in 2010, there was an exit fee of like almost $7 million. And then every year after that, what the Big 12 paid out to each individual member school and what Colorado received being a part of the Pac-12. And the end number is nearly $70 million. Now, I know there's also people will get into the academics and fundraising and all that. This is about athletics. They have been shortchanged by leaving the Big 12 when they did by $67+ million based on the numbers through the 22-23 season. This is not just the football media deal. This is all of the income revenue each team would bring in from the Big 12 and or the Pac-12.
That's another reason that you would think that Colorado would be a prime candidate to leave, just because they thought they were getting one thing in the Pac-12 and they didn't. And nothing, like, tell me a good thing that's happened to Colorado in the Pac-12.
Well, you see, like, if you have teams like Nebraska who's fallen into mediocrity, they can at least say, yeah, but we're making a lot of money, right?
Yeah, I mean, so not only did your football team get worse and stop contending regularly for the conference title, it lost money too. So, basketball is nothing to write home about. So the move to the Pac-12 for Colorado, just has not worked out.
No, it hasn't. And, I was trying to sit here and search while you were talking for the quote I saw from yesterday from their AD or their president, who was reiterating that they are waiting to hear on an offer. I don't know if you guys came across that or not, but one of their league officials was basically regurgitating what was said a few months ago about they're waiting to hear numbers and their plan is to be in the Pac-12, and just reasserting what we've known all along. So, I mean, yeah, I get the point of why they would potentially leave, but I don't know if you're really at what seems like an end game. Like, I can't see the Pac-12 being able to say, you know what, no, by New Year's we'll have a deal. Like, I think that's when everybody be like, all right, this is ridiculous. But we're here. It's media days. They're dangling this carrot. We don't know what's going to be said tomorrow as far as, how close this thing is or not. So if you're on the verge of that meeting, you're not going anywhere. And that was made clear by comments yesterday. But, yeah, I mean, they've clearly lost a lot of money. I don't know how sustainable that is. I don't know enough about the university's finances or their goals or, how all that fits together. That's not a part of it that I pretend to be an expert on. But, yeah, $70 million over that span, that's got to be a bit of a tough pill to swallow. Now, maybe some of that's offset by those other things that I don't, pay as much attention to. But that is, yeah, some ammunition for why they would potentially be looking around. Although, we're here. There's a talk tomorrow, apparently. We're certainly going to hear from the commissioner, and I think it'll be very interesting to then, collect all of whatever comes out of that and then, go from there, because I think there is, a pre-media day kind of cycle that we've been on, and then whatever takes place at media day or in that meeting, there will be that post timeline that I think we start to kick off, and that one could be a little bit more electric just because, yeah, time's starting to really wind down a bit on the overall clock. So, yeah, that's not surprising. I mean, it has been a very mediocre run for them out in that conference. I don't know if it would have been any difference had they stayed in the Big 12. They obviously made the move they felt they needed to at the time. But I think, it's a bummer that this big year for them with their brand-new coach, and he's not even going to be at media days. I mean, he's going to be, working on his health. Dion, he won't even be there. So, yeah, a lot of the attraction for Pac-12 media days. Oh, they're going to have a TV deal. No, they're not. Dion's going to be there. No, he's not. That takes a little bit of the steam out of that event, but it's only one day, so I'm sure it'll come and go, and there'll be plenty of people talking, and I'm fascinated to see what comes out of that.
I just hope it's not the Fire Fest of media.
No, it's not going to be that bad.
No.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, it's kind of a bummer where you're like, oh, we're going to do this and this and this.
Do you think Kliavkoff and his demeanor tomorrow and how he answers questions, if he does it at least positively and emphatically and doesn't just linger, does that help any at all? If there's no number,
I would hope for his sake it does. I mean,
he's the guy that said that when there were grenades, he thought, being thrown at the Pac-12 from the Big 12 when he mentioned, you're right, we're not sure who we're going to add to our conference, and basically was pointing at the Big 12. Here we are a year later. No one's gone to the Big 12 other than the 4 were coming anyway, and the Pac-12 hasn't gained anybody either. And I think that he probably looks back at that. He was pissed off. He was angry. He felt like, people were throwing darts and grenades at the Pac-12, and he kind of fought back. That was probably a little bit of a weak moment, though, because it hasn't happened.
Yeah, he should have fought back. I mean, because it's his job to do and represent the conference, but he should have also maybe been a little smarter about it, because he didn't have anything to fall back on. The thing that the Big 12 has always had to fall back on is like, yeah, but we've got a TV deal. Like, we know what we're going to be. And so he didn't know that at the time, and he's probably guilty of being a little too optimistic. Or, I mean, maybe he will wind up being right. It's just taken so long. So that's why we haven't heard from him in a while, because the last time we did, everybody kind of ripped apart everything he said, for whatever rightful reasons or not, But if I'm George Kliavkoff and I cannot answer the question I know that you're going to ask me, I'm going to avoid that until I absolutely have to answer it, which would be tomorrow. And then I hope he comes up with an answer that allows him to, at least within the first 20 minutes of his address, move on to a second topic.
He can't just say, I can't answer that question. I don't want to. He can't.
Sure he can.
Well, I think he's got to have something with meat on the bone.
All right, here's the Colorado Chancellor yesterday, Phil DeStefano, to Denver Post. I'm eagerly awaiting to hear what the commissioner has to say, but at this point, the 10 schools are staying together and awaiting a message from the commissioner. CU's goal is to stay within the Pac-12 and have a media deal coming up shortly. That's our goal, and I believe the presidents and chancellors of the Pac-12 are together on that. This is not the first time that someone has said this. This has been the messaging all along. So if you're Kliavkoff and you got nothing in hand, why are you going to go to the media who rips apart everything that's said by Kirk Schultz, by DeStefano, by whoever else has spoken at this point from Arizona State, or Robbins from Arizona or Colorado? So, yeah, I mean, guys, like, I get it. Like, there's this feel of, like, the clock's ticking down and all that. But I really, like, if he speaks tomorrow and there's like no updates, or he skirts the issue, then I think that you start to go like, wait a second, like it's one thing to not have an announcement. It's another thing to not have like anything to really chew on. I do think that would be a red flag, but I think that depending on what he says tomorrow to those schools, if it's satisfactory enough, then get ready to keep waiting, because they don't want to go anywhere. And it would take I think just a mess of a situation, which some might argue it already is, but I think it would take a really messy situation to actually force anything. I don't feel like there's the dam's about to break, but depending on what that message is tomorrow, perhaps that would be the case. None of us know, and that's why it's going to be fascinating to hear what he has to say.
All right, John Wilner in his mailbag, the Mercury News, and, of course, the Pac-12 hotline, and coming up, Keeler from the Denver Post on a lot of things we've just discussed. In our view, there is a psychological component to the proceedings, with Kliavkoff's performance potentially impacting the confidence level various campuses have in his leadership. He is, after all, leading a process that has lasted far longer than the previous presidents the presidents expected. That said, John Wilner takes a multitude of factors into account when formulating the point spread to the Pac-12 survival. And the most important pieces have been always options for Oregon, Washington, and the sports media landscape. Nothing has changed with the former. The Big Ten isn't adding more schools at the present. Something could be changing with the latter. The market for live sports is rapidly shifting to streaming. ESPN's move to direct-to-consumer potential, of course, delivering potential favor to the Pac-12, which has cornered the market on Power 5 football supply if they were to go streaming. So that's 5 weeks ago. John in his mailbag said, no, this is the exact quote. And I like him a lot, John Wilner. Absolute drop dead must be completed. Announced deadline for the Pac-12's media rights contract is Friday, July 21st. That's 5 short weeks away. That's when they'll have the stage with their preseason football media extravaganza.
Yep. So, again, be interesting to hear what he has to say. But everybody's, really repeating kind of the same old lines as far as waiting to hear. Now, you can take from that Colorado quote of being interested in hearing what the commissioner has to say. That's why I keep going back. Like, whatever he says tomorrow, and I don't even know how much of it we'll learn right away and how much leaks out later on, that to me is like the big That's the big fork in the road. And so not that, like, if he says something that's not adequate, like all of a sudden you just hear, like, breaking, Colorado's leaving. I don't know if it'd be that type of immediacy, but that's an important meeting, I think, for George Kliavkoff and his conference mates tomorrow to find out where exactly they are and what exactly that looks like. And I'm just hoping that we get, some of the